Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is June the 4th, 2023 on the ancient moon calendar, 2024 on the ancient sun calendar. And before we start, as always, we want to send the highest honor, praise, and glory and majesty to the matriarchs. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3, Moorish American, Al-Moroccan, Universal Court Action. We are the sovereign living justices and Ego Sum, Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bay. All are in Capitis Diminutio Nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are capit et corpus juris legalis, which is our statement that we are the lawful and legal natural head and body for our empire. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites and Hittites and Hamathites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves. For we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We're ancient Washington District for Columbia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Earthwide Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are exercising the law by our sovereign status, which is the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3 living United States District for Columbia Court, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, original creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, possessors, and titled beneficiaries for this cause for action. We are peace. We are one nation. We are one state. We are one empire. And we are one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our sovereign ascension. We have issued a universal creditor's affidavit for possession, liquidation, and custody over all land, all resources, both natural and national, all commerce, and all other property. We are the one true God nation. We are not at war, and we hereby exercise all eternal, ancient, original, sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. The principles that we share in these congressional assemblies are not our opinion. Along with our sovereign, powerful demonstrations and study, these processes that we share are based on principles of stare decisis, res judicata, ancient positive supreme law for the land, long established in sovereign order, erudite principles and processes for daily practical application to intelligently govern our vast estate. Every day is what our ancestors have given us to share with the ancient sovereign nations, tribes, clans, states, and governments at earth. For this, we are grateful. And if you'll give me just one moment. Grand Rising, Empress Shasha, Grand Rising, great to have your energy here with us, even though your energy was here with us anyway. So with that, just one moment. Let me take a moment to share my screen. Before we get started, Islam. Okay. Yes, and Rishasha is here. Islam. So we'll do a little housekeeping. Just one moment. Islam. Okay. So, let us, Islam, we told you she wasn't going to be in there long. So, in honor of the great and grand matriarchs, we did dedicate this fast. Today is the last day of our 3-day fast, our 3-day full moon fast. And we did dedicate this fast to the matriarchs, to include Empress Shasha, and to all the matriarchs who are being tested at this time and who are standing beautifully as well. And for that, we're grateful. This fast was different from any that I've had in the past. Very different, very powerful in a very strong and quiet way. And for that, we're grateful. To the matriarchs, I want to point something out. And I'm sure we all knew this, but let's just put it on the screen so that we know it and state it for the record. The root word of the word title is tit. That is actually a word. It's a word. All titles come from those who have given suck, as the Circle 7 states. So the word tit is where titled heirs are nourished. It is where the words tit and titties are derived from, and those are sometimes used in a slang manner. But there is actually, etymologically, it's correct. Tit el is the nourishment from God. So when you put those two words together, you get title. The Circle 7 supports this, where it states in chapter 25, verse 1 of the Circle 7 Holy Quran for the Moorish Holy Temple for Science. Chapter 25, verse 1, a holy covenant for the Asiatic nation. Ye are the children of one Father, provided for by his care. And we have rewritten this. We've restated this, and we'll show you that later today. This is what the one written by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, or it is stated he wrote this. But we have restated it, so it's going to verse slightly differently. But it says here, ye are the children of one Father, and we know we're not children anymore, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you suck. And then when it talks about one Father providing for, John chapter 10, verse 30 says, I and the Father are one. And that was Yeshua speaking. So with that being stated, we did, Empress Shasha, you best to know it. They wanted to see Mother. And when Empress Shasha is wanting to share her story, or desiring to share her story, she will do so. But that's what that was all about, indeed. With that being stated, our success is measured by us and not by anything and anyone else. And when as the testing is going on with the heirs, when the testers realize that they cannot break you, they must submit. Congratulations to our entire nation on successful completion of our full moon fast with intention. And again, the full moon fast was about the matriarchs. This, as it always is. Again, where intention on this fast is concerned, what will the ancestors do through us, for us, to us, by us? Okay, we will see that. That will be manifested over time. They are doing for us what we do for ourselves. That is what the ancestors will do, are doing, and will continue to do. And that is what we do for ourselves. With that being stated, we talked briefly about more sovereign dolarium in the last Congressional Assembly. I wanted to bring something to your attention with regard to dolarium, because it is becoming clearer and clearer and clearer that our money is actually the only money at Earth, the real money, and that we have every right to use our own money. Again, we do receive email requests, numerous of them, and we respond with dolarium in return. How much dolarium is in each electronic exchange? Over a trillion. Over a trillion. Trillion with a T, because there's at least $1 trillion bill in that exchange that we give. Now, when we send the dolarium out to the heirs, it is not signed. So the heirs have to sign it in order for it to be valid. Okay? If you've heard of banks failing, quote unquote, that's true in the funny mirror. However, the real banks are buying gold and silver and things like that, quote unquote. Okay? So there's no failure where gold and silver are concerned. And we know that we have gold and silver running through our veins. It's in our bodies. Since banks and governments are buying gold, our system is rising. That is our statement. Now, with regard to Moorish sovereign dolarium, all Moors who choose to provide goods, services, and works, etc., whatever you desire to provide freely within the nation, are encouraged to account for your work using Moorish sovereign dolarium gold receipts as a store for value, because we hear that term a lot, especially when they're talking about things like Bitcoin and things like that, which is not a real thing. It's virtual by their own admission. So gold receipts as a store for value, a medium for exchange, and a unit for account. Moorish sovereign dolarium, just like all other in the past, it is a device used to measure value in our financial actions and exchanges, similar to a yardstick. So we use Moorish sovereign dolarium gold receipts to measure value. What is the value of what is being supplied or given or brought or exchanged, produced, traded? What is the value of that? We measure value in Moorish sovereign dolarium gold receipts. That is what makes Moorish sovereign dolarium so easy to use. So our freedom is there as well as within us. And Moorish sovereign dolarium comes from us, so it is a part of us as well. But we want to keep these things in mind as we're moving forward with more sovereign dolarium gold receipts as a store for value, a medium for exchange, and a unit for account. It is to measure the value. That's how we measure value. How many more sovereign dolarium gold receipts is this worth? Or is that service worth? Now, we started that off when we introduced more sovereign dolarium gold receipts, and then we stated that, for those who choose to send a monthly donation to us in more sovereign dolarium, because we do not accept fiat or anything of that nature. We don't accept it. We only accept our own more sovereign dolarium gold receipts for all services that we provide to the nation. And the donations have been coming in just majorly. I mean, we have we're having to spend quite a bit of time keeping up with the donations as they come in, and for that we're grateful. When the Biblios talked about our cup running over and all nations calling us blessed, that is truth indeed. With that being stated, what we just want to put a few more things, a little more support, documentation support, under or behind more sovereign dolarium. What constitutes legal currency? Because we talk about currency, we talk about money, because more sovereign dolarium is all of that, and it is also gold receipts. More sovereign dolarium can be used as checks, etc., however you choose to use your money. We can electronically exchange it with one another. We keep records of it. It can be logged in as well. What constitutes legal currency? And I'll put this link in the chat so that you can basically take a look at 31 United States Code 5115. Okay, so with that being stated, just one moment, let me do a little housekeeping here. Okay. Okay. Just a moment, let me do a little more housekeeping here really quickly. Okay. Now, 31 United States Code, subsection 5115. United States currency notes. There. Oops. Okay. Just one more. Now let's put this in the chat as well. Okay. So United States Code 31, subsection 5115. The Secretary for the Treasury may issue United States currency notes. The notes are payable to bearer and shall be in a format and in nominations of at least $1 that the Secretary prescribes. The amount of United States currency notes outstanding and in circulation may be more than 300 million and may be held or used for a reserve. Have we rewritten this? Yes, we have. So let's see what it read. The suggested reading for this initially there it is. The suggested, this is what they stated initially, 31U.S. code. It says shall be in a form and in denominations of at least $1 that the Secretary provides. May not be held or used for a reserve, may not be more than 300 million. So there are limits on the number of notes that they could put, the debtors could put out. And for us, it's quite different. It was more than 300 million from the very beginning. Just with the first tribution of more sovereign dolarium, because our estate is so vast and it's growing every day. So we just did a reversion of estate on that whole United States Code and put that it may be more than 300 million and may be held or used for a reserve if we choose to, because again, they are gold receipts. Okay. And we could also change it from notes to gold receipts. But notes and gold receipts in the creditor system are the same. Just like in the debtor system, notes and debt notes are the same. But we're not in that system. We have created our own creditor system, our own capitalism, our own money, our own banks, our own government. We have always been self-governing. I looked in Black's Law Dictionary under national currency, 4th edition online. It said notes issued by national banks, and that's in all lowercase letters, and by the United States government. Okay, and the United States government, there was a dead, fake, fraudulent fiction version of that. And then there's a living United States, which are the original indigenous ancient states united. So dollars issued by the National Bank for this United States is what we say is our definition of national currency. So with that being stated, are there any yes, indeed. So with that being stated, let me, no. Okay. Are there any questions, comments, wisdom of any from anyone on this grand Congress? Islam.
Is this the restated version, or is this what you pulled off of the website? National Currency.
Ask again.
Is this the restated version, or this is what is on the website?
The restate. So this national currency, notes issued by national banks and by the United States government. This comes from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition online.
Okay.
Okay. And then we restated it here at the bottom. And what we're stating is that national currency is dollars issued by the national bank for this United States. Okay. Thank you for asking, Empress. Islam, I did need to clarify that. Justice Tonus and then Empress Shasha. Justice Tonus. I heard you back there. You were low. Your voice was low, but I heard you.
You heard me. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. This is Justice Minister Tonus Elajabe Moorish Air. This is the Department of...
Hold on one moment. There's a little bit of noise coming from somewhere. I want to make sure that we can hear you. Go ahead, Justice Tonus. Go ahead.
National Republic, federal government. I made a report and posted it online for you to see. They're blocking the signal here for you to review actions made. I approve of the currency there. I think the 300 million is enough for certain things. There may be, because you might have to...
Hey, Tonus, why does the God need to be in the hospital? I hope they pull the plug on that bit.
Go ahead, Nobility.
Okay, you may have to fund a whole neighborhood and stuff, meaning like the merchants have to be given it, and then they all do their trading and stuff. We'll keep track of it. So that's a which is about 100 million hit in what they were calling the Social Security and the DMV. As we take the Social Security number and mark off, we can hand them back their currency, and then they can figure out how to spend it. So I would say...
Your powers are fading, Tonus. They're going to pull the plug on you.
Go ahead, Nobility.
And so... but yes, the smaller denomination is going to have to be used for the people who don't understand.
Yes.
We could also take it to certain merchants and just give it to them and tell them to keep track of it so that when other people come in, they could do the trading and things can just continue on as they are. So
Islam.
I approve the denominations that you put there so far, the 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s, and then on the public's going to be dealing with those lower ends also. Make sure they have it.
Yeah. Indeed. Thank you, Justice Tonus. The Islam Nobility. The higher denominations are going to be for those of us who know all about Delarium and are doing business. Merchant action. Just one moment. There is some feedback coming from somewhere. The higher denominations will be for those who know about Delarium and who are doing merchant business nation to nation. And when we say nation to nation, it doesn't take a whole lot of people to do nation to nation business. Merchants can do nation to nation business because we've been doing it.
Many nations are in one neighborhood too sometimes.
Yes, indeed. I'm so glad you said that. Yes. If I do business with someone who's right down the way here, if I do Empress Shasha, there's some feedback coming from your line, so you may need to turn down a volume or something as well.
Empress, I was muted. They've hacked me. It's not me.
Okay, just a moment.
I
got it.
All right.
Okay, we'll put that one out. No worries. The higher denominations, Moors who are doing things like because there's so many resources. Just the other day, we went out to out into the territory to look at the natural resources and to harvest some of the natural resources here. And I tell you, it was so much. We only brought back a little bit of the natural resources, and it was so much more of it was oceans of resource available. And so when we're talking about providing for our
Did you harvest the Land Rover? It's the new era, same as the old era. You didn't have a Land Rover in the old era either.
We're talking about, as we're talking about these, dealing with other nations. There's going to be so much available that we can use. So what we did, the natural resources that we were looking at while we were out was, again, the sea salt and the seaweed, because the seaweed is we can eat it, we can use it as vitamins, minerals, etc., because the seaweed takes in so many of the natural vitamins and minerals from the ocean. And there was so much of it that it was just amazing and unbelievable. I thought about all of those who could be healed and well and their health be better just from the sea salt and the seaweed. During this fast, I took sea salt to help further the cleansing, and I felt no weakness at all. I felt a little bit today, but that's, again, as the toxins are leaving our bodies, that's what weakness and stomachs growling and all of that stuff is. That's just toxins moving around and leaving our bodies, So, those higher denominations of delirium, I thought we could trade that in. If I had tried to evaluate the amount of natural resources, just the sea salt and just the seaweed, just those two, because it was endless. There was no end to the sea salt and seaweed that we could have harvested just this past week. And the sea salt is sea minerals. Sea minerals is actually a better word. Sea salt is not completely accurate in terms of what you're actually harvesting. It's actually sea minerals. And it was just endless. So those higher denominations of delirium will be for those who are operating at that level. With regard to, there are giant places or factory. There's I know two that I know of on the West Coast, but I'm sure there are more. They're called desalination factories, and you can Google how huge they are. And absolutely, that was stuff we did. That didn't have anything to do with any foreigners. They, as I was watching some of the videos about the desalination plants, I just noticed that they just looked like they didn't know what the heck they were doing at our desalination plant. And all it does is pull water from the sea, and it makes it so that the water can be drinkable. It's drinkable and usable in the communities, whereas it would remove the salt and the minerals from the water and make the water drinkable. And then it was taking the salt and the minerals, and sending it back out to the ocean. And I'm like, that's so reverse of what we would do with that. They definitely did a reversion on that piece, and we're reversioning it back. We've reversioned it back, the desalination plants. There's one at Califia Territory. There's one here at the San Juan Islands, which are named after St. John, the one in the Biblios. And so we could have harvested. I see what you're saying, Noble Phoenix. We could have harvested. Harvested just means bringing it in and processing it. So whenever we make sea salt here, we take the seawater, the salty seawater, and we boil it down until there's nothing left but salt, until the salt starts to crystallize. And then we boil it down a little bit more so that we can harvest the salt from the water. And then we let the salt dry. And drying can be done by low temperatures in the oven, where you just keep it on a low temperature and let it dry out that way. Or you can dry it out, you know, in the same pot that you're boiling it down in. Either way is fine. And then in terms of acquisitions, just like with our first sending out or distribution of sea salt that we did a couple of weeks back with one of the empresses who sent us delarium for the sea salt. We hadn't really quoted how much per ounce the sea salt is, but this is the crazy part about the sea salt. 8 ounces or 9 ounces or 10 ounces of sea salt is about $999. So it's not quite as expensive as, say, gold flakes, but it's close. At this time, it's close. Gold is going to go up a lot higher. But again, anything that is done by the heirs, just a moment, Justice Tonis, we can hear you. Just a moment. Anything that's done by the heirs in terms of, just one moment. We handcraft everything. You know, the containers that we send the sea salt out in, and all of that are I autograph all of them. We put our autograph on all of them, and there's a method and a reason for that. Okay, so harvesting and all of our work is done where commerce is concerned regarding our notes, our delarium, our gold receipts. That's how we do, you know, with acquisition. We just price it like anyone else would price things, except knowing that it is actually a real product and not a fake product. It's not done in a laboratory. It's done able to get in by now. Okay, so with that being stated, we're just going to be taking a look at furthering those processes. We've got time. We're not in a rush. The land is ours. We're just going to walk through the processes. It's not an overnight process. We're going to just keep moving forward. And we're going to be using our own money to do all of that. So with that being stated, again, it's just a yardstick to measure what the value of whatever it is that we're doing, just like any other money, real money, not fake money. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom?
We are in your computer, Pauline.
With regard to the national currency. I don't know why I feel like I can't hear you all. Let's move forward. We've been talking about the bid bond, payment bond, and performance bond process. And what we want to do is continue that process. It's been something interesting working on the completion of it. That process must be a very powerful process, and I know it is, simply because of the what we've been seeing in terms of the energies and getting it completed. Just one moment. So, you know, and I don't know what would make anyone think that we cannot. Just one moment. Let me put that out as well, because that's we know that that's not the real one. Islam. So let's see. What we want to do is just take a moment to look at the bond attachment writ affidavit, the creditor bond, through our general services and not the General Services Administration, quote unquote, because that's not a real thing. We are general services. We've always been general services, and we will always be providing services on our own land. The funny mirror is a done deal, and that's the reason why, they whine and act like babies, because they are children about things. So here we go. So now, can you all see the General Services document on the screen? Okay, great. All right. Perfect. So I was inspired to, during this fast, to make a few additional changes. We've not completed this process. We're just going through the process even as we speak. Just one moment. And so what we want to do is take another look, and as we take this additional look at the process, excuse all of the movement here, but I want to be able to hear you all and for you all to be able to hear us as well. So we made some additional changes, and they are as follows. United States for America, lien release on all escrow property. Okay. Just one moment. Just a moment. So, before, when we were looking at this documentation, the surety had a name. That has not changed, except the surety is not going to be a name of, let's say, United States for America and all of that. We're not going to use that as surety in this era. What we're going to do in this era is use gold as the surety. So, whereas gold on or in the land by a bond for the living actions for United States government contract number 2025923 became a surety for the complete and successful actions completed, just one moment, in the stated contract, which bond includes a lien on certain living property further described hereafter, and whereas said surety established the said lien upon the following living property. And then you can see there the different formats, because we've restated all of those formats. Just one moment.
Now, the nature of this
just one moment
is the paperwork system that we've been sending people to. The paperwork.
Trust credits, and it actually should say trust entitlements. By Constitution for the United States, 1789 and 1791. United States for America Estate. That's all of us. Just one moment. So, just one moment. This is going to be something new. This is what we went over last time. We made a couple of changes, and then we're going to go to the bid bond, action bond, and payment bond. We changed it from performance because we're not actors. We're doing actions, court actions. And so there are some terms that we want to look at today with regard to this. It's here on the lien release for all living escrow property. This affirmation is for all living causes for action, court cases, lawsuits, and all others. So this has to do with things that are happening in our daily actions and our daily lives. Up here, see affirmed affidavit, United States birth certificates, the living original indigenous peoples instruments. So everyone, you are encouraged, if you're going to use this document, you want to create your own birth certificate. Okay, we don't use anything that has to do with, the fraud and the stuff that they did. Okay, we don't use their stuff. We use our own. So with that being stated, just a moment. Let's see if we can. Okay, so now we can see what's happening in terms of wanting to disrupt our peace, and we're not going to let our peace be disrupted. so they can stop trying. Now, with that being stated, here down at the bottom, it says, and these are, we're just pointing out the changes that we made. Whereas the surety remains the property for the United States government, which is us, for continued living, full settlement, full proof by public instruments, full right, and full jurisdiction. Surety is free on board at all times. These terms, we can look them up. Okay? So now, with that being stated, let's look them up, because I looked them up in Black's Law Dictionary. Let's look at, and we can look at some of these. Full proof. Let's look at full jurisdiction. Full jurisdiction is on the screen. It says complete jurisdiction over a given subject matter or class of actions as in equity without any exceptions or reservations. Now, when we say just the word jurisdiction, we still mean full jurisdiction, okay? But we wanted to exercise a little more precision in the words that we use so that we can, so that it is clear that, you know, we're competent and we're looking at the language that's being used. Just one moment. We're looking at the language that's being used and ensuring that as we move forward, that we put competent language on, especially on forms, because forms are a little bit formats, our forms, okay, not theirs. It's ones that we create. Our forms are far more precise than subject forms, okay? And excuse me if I'm looking over this way. I have another computer over here that I'm opening up. So with that being stated, we also use the term full proof. Full proof. And it says in civil law, proof by two witnesses or by a public instrument. Now, let us make it clear that public instruments are proof. And this is what we've been stating and saying on the record, that public instruments are proof. Just a moment. Boy, they are really the more the stronger we get, the more they're trying to stop what we're saying and doing, and you know, they're trying to distract because of the fast. I know that fast snatched some more sandwiches, and they don't like that. So yeah, indeed, Empress Malaya. So with that being stated, just one moment, I want to make sure that the meeting, even though I yet anyway, here, let me see if I can open up over here. Just a moment. I can't really hear who's speaking, to mute it until I can get over here. Here we go.
Islam, can you hear me? Is the signal clear?
And let's get the audio going here. Just a moment.
Hey, Tonus, ain't they pulled the plug?
Islam. Islam, can you hear me?
Just a moment. Let me make sure I can hear.
Welcome, and thank you for choosing freeconferencecall.com. You're helping people around the world communicate for free. There are 65 participants in the conference. The recording has started.
Okay.
Please announce yourself.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Where have you possessed anything you've commanded, and you think anybody?
Yes, I can hear you, Empress.
Okay. And I can hear you all too. Okay, that's great. So now, thank you for waiting while we work out the haterade. The union, a full right is another one that we used, okay? But we were talking about full proof being a public instrument.
Hey, Malaya,
A
why
public
don't you
instrument
command
being
me? Malaya, why don't you
anything that
command
has to
me
do
to quit
with,
coming in here, Malaya, you poor whiny bitch?
Boy, they are really mad. Okay.
I'm just glad they announced my title. Obviously, they know who I am. And then when I called them trolls earlier, they responded to that too. So obviously, they know who they are. We can keep on.
So let's not go back and forth with them, though, Empress Malaya, please, because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. They want our energy, and we're not going to give it to them. So now, full proof by public instrument. Now, you're seeing it right here on the screen that any instrument that the Moors put on the public record is full proof. Okay, it is proof of whatever it is that you're stating. Okay, it says evidence which satisfies the minds of the jury of the truth of the fact in dispute, to the entire exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Your public instruments, now let me say this about that. Public instruments include Moorish sovereign dolarium. That's a public instrument. Okay? Moorish sovereign dolarium is a public instrument. We stated that from the very beginning. The public can use Moorish sovereign dolarium. It has to be autographed by the sovereigns, but as we circulate it,
come on, Malaya, we want to see you buy some groceries, Malaya. Use some dolarium to buy groceries, Malaya. Let's see your demonstration.
Just a moment. So the more we use more sovereign dolarium, the more the public will be able to have some. But it has to be autographed by the sovereign, period. And then they can use it. What is an undocumented Moor? Because see, we could go on into that. There's no such thing as an undocumented Moor. That doesn't exist. There are Moors who need to specify their documentation. But when we said, and this is why we did what we did, we said all Moors. In the documentation that we put out on the public record, we included all Moors. We do that in all of our,
Malaya, maybe you can hook up with Angel Bay, who can't get a free conveyance either.
All of our court actions as well. When we first open up the meeting, we state we and all Moors, we include all our brothers and sisters. So they're not undocumented, but they do need to put their nationality and other documents on the public record. And we're going to show you why also when we go through these definitions. There's some other definitions that we're going to bring forth. There are the undocumented Moors can use it too, but they do need to be documented,
So with that being stated, all they need to do is put an instrument on the public record, and then it's a wrap. They're documented. So full right, the union of a good title with actual possession. That is what delarium is. We have actual possession to all the gold receipts, which means we have actual possession of the gold, and we have title. The delarium itself is the title. Okay, and then we put that with all of the other titles that we create. Full settlement, and we're going over the terms that are on the document that we're putting on the public record. That we're going over the bid bond, payment bond, and action bond. Okay, these are terms that we put into that document, and we adjust these terms even according to our will. Full settlement implies an adjustment of all pending matters, the mutual release of all prior obligations existing between the parties. And for us, whenever we see the word obligation, it means we substitute that for entitlement, because we don't really have obligations except
nothing possessed, and you think anyone's paying attention.
But we do have entitlements. Okay, and so with that being stated, let's go back to the document where those terms are being used. So on this page, this is the first page, and the first page actually should be entitled Lien Release for All Living Escrow. Oh, we could do that. Okay. And then there's a full, here it is, full settlement, full proof by public instruments, full right, and full jurisdiction. Surety is free on board at all times. Okay, and let's take a look at the term free on board. We have some other terms that we're going to show you as well. We may have to go to Black's Law to get that term. Can someone pull up Black's Law dictionary and look up the term free on board? And then I guess we'll go here as well. Here, we have it on the screen as well. Free on board. And there it is right there. Okay, so free on board means that the subject of sale is to be loaded for shipment without expense to the buyer. And for us, this means that anything that we have stated in the past, such as, for example, a Range Rover or a conveyance or a whatever Yes, indeed. That's great. Empress Malaya put a definition in the chat as well. So did Justice Morpheus. Let's see. Yes, indeed. It says up. Empress Malaya's fourth edition says up to getting goods on ship in the port of departure as specified by the buyer. All charges are included. Known also as collect freight, freight collect, or freight forward. Oh, that's really good. That's good. Price invoiced or quoted as a term of sale by a seller, followed by the name of a port or city, e.g., free on board San Francisco. It indicates no charges to the buyer for goods placed on board a carrier at the port of shipment. That's good. Also refer to X works. Indeed. Indeed. So, with that being stated, again, let's go back to the document. So, this is what we're stating about this. Now, release for all living person property from escrow. Here we're stating the same thing as we stated last time. Again, full jurisdiction. Entitled warranted contracting officers for the United States government for full settlement right and full jurisdiction do hereby rule that retention in escrow of any living property is no longer required to ensure further actions by the stated government contract or satisfaction of claims arising therefrom. And then we put some things here. In order to use this document, again, you must create your own living birth certificate, and that birth certificate is allonged or attached to your living birth affidavit, okay, which is the 8.5 by 14, the long form. So, whereas the living surety remains the property of the United States government for the continued living actions for the stated government contract and satisfaction for claims pertaining thereto, all property is free on board with full settlement, full right, full proof by public instrument, and full jurisdiction by the government. Now, therefore, this affirmed affidavit witnesses that the government hereby releases from escrow all living property as stated and intended, and accepts heirship, possession, ownership, and custodianship, and that actually should be custody. Custody, and I think we want to probably take the word ownership out. We're the heirs, which is greater than ownership. For all living escrow accounts and property for delivery now to the entitled beneficiaries. And I think this should be shipment and delivery. Shipment and delivery now to the entitled beneficiaries, heirs, trustees, executors, and ministers. The stated and intended living persons and property does comprise the whole of all placed in escrow for the stated escrow account. Herefore, the government does hereby close the previously stated escrow account and returns all living property previously held therein as stated, along with any trust credits, and before the deduction of any contracted costs lawfully agreed to be given to all living United States courts and banks, and that's us too. We're the living courts and banks. Now, this is the part that we didn't get to the last time because it needed some finishing, some finessing, and some finishing. And I there's a couple of things. Yeah. Okay. So now, this document This is the bid bond, Sovereign Universal Original Living Bid Bond. The date the bond is activated, it's actually activated non-protunct. So all of the demonstrations that were done in the past, as well as the ones that we will be doing in the future, Islam nobility.
Okay, just a general quick question. Again, I guess where I missed something is the payment, the bid bond, payment bond, or action bond, or payment and action bond, as we restated them, was in the old era used. At the bond literally means a promise to pay as well. Okay, that's what a bond is. A bond is an obligation, or in the old system, it was used as a means to state an obligation and an intention to pay. Okay?
Yeah.
We no longer need to use intentions to pay when we have the ability to pay. Okay? To lawfully settle with Gold Tier 1. So my question is, why are we doing bid bond, payment, and performance bonds, or action bonds? Why is there a necessity for that? Would you clarify that for me, please?
Yes.
Because I missed something.
So the reason that's a great question. So the reason that we're using this process, again, everything on the vast estate must be accounted for properly. There are systems in place for that. This general services process makes it so that, because see, we're not going to have third-party interlopers where we pick up the phone and say, hey, can you tell us where this is and that is and how to get this and how to get that? We're not going to have that because we know how to access our vast estate ourselves. So this process is the process that we use to access things through general services. Now, what we did not know is that all of those previously doing business as the United States of America who were in quote-unquote government positions were using this process to get everything that they got. They didn't tell us about this process, but bail bondsmen were using it. Every bail bond that ever went out went through this process right here. In order to get conveyances and say that this conveyance is paid for by the United States and it's state property, so no one can take it unless they're a part of the state, this process was used. When you're talking about government, anything, because everything that we do is government. We're never outside of government because the people govern. So even where domiciles are concerned, all of our domiciles are government domiciles, all of them. And you'll see, if you look at what they used in the last era, their bid bonds and payment bonds and performance bonds state that there is bondage both jointly and severally, which means even when people were running around by themselves trying to do things, it still had to go through this process because there was a bond there. When you talk about treasury bonds, this is the way that the Treasury is notified that a payment needs to be made. The Treasury. So when you're accessing the Treasury, which we know we're the Treasury also, then you use this process right here to do so. This is to notify the Treasury of whatever we're doing, whether we're doing it jointly or severally, which means individually, or as states, the 50 states, or earth-wide.
All right. Other observation, looking at the form itself, okay, I noticed at the top, Office for Management Budget Control Number, we gave it a new number, or was that the old number just restated?
That's the old number restated because we leaned all that old stuff. It's been leaned.
All right. Then expires at will. Okay, should that say at our will? Just as a note? Because whose will?
Well, this only applies to those who use it.
Otherwise, it does not expire.
Hmm?
I just read the last, otherwise it does not expire.
Correct. So, just like the last era, anybody who used those bonds, it expired when those bonds expired. With us, no foreigner is going to be using these because this is our state. So it expires at the will of the user, whoever is using it. That's why we didn't specify.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Islam. And those are great questions. Thank you for them because it's keeping us sharp as well. Iron sharpens iron, indeed. So it says here, because this bond right up here at the top, it says Sovereign Universal Original Living Bid Bond. Everything must be accounted for. We can't just have people grabbing things and going around because there's so many of us. Everything has to be properly accounted for. So we want to use the systems that we have, that we put in place on our vast estate. And that way our accounting becomes a lot easier.
And speaking of Islam, and so in speaking of that, the accountability side of what we're stating here.
Yes.
So that everything is well accounted for, organized, and documented correctly. Yes. So when we issue these bid, payment, and action bonds, then is it just something that we're putting on our record that it has been executed? Are we sending it to our Morris Treasury in Ogden? What are we doing with it?
Those are great questions. Yes, it will go to Ogden. It will go to New York as well.
Okay.
And then you keep copies for your records. So we do things in threes. So it will go to Ogden.
So what was the third one? I got Ogden. I got New York. What's the third one?
Your records.
Oh, my own records. Okay, of course. Okay, yeah. Islam.
So our estate is vast. It must be, everything has to be done in order, decently and in order. We don't do, out of chaos comes order. Things have been chaotic during the transition, but now we're establishing order on the land. And that order starts with us and the statements that we put out. So it says here, whereas the living surety remains the property of the United States government for the continued living actions for the stated government contract, and this is the same statement that was on the previous page that we looked at. There's just one addition. It says this information collection meets the requirements of 44 United States Code, subsection 3507, and you can look that up. It's the paperwork, they called it Reduction Act. They're reducing their paper because they knew they were going to be getting out of the way and going virtual and then disappearing altogether. For us, it is the paperwork production law right now because of the paperwork that's being generated, because we are existing on the land, and so we're not virtual or anything. I can't say we're not virtual. We are electronic. Let me put it that way. We're electronic, and we exist on the land. So our paperwork production will go up as we move forward. Okay, just long enough for us to speak to our systems competently, and when our systems get accustomed to hearing us speak, then the paperwork will reduce. It will reduce over time. But our system had not been hearing from us, and so there was nothing, there were frauds speaking, pretending to be us. And really all they were doing was teaching us how to govern, really. So all comments and suggestions regarding the stated paperwork, and I believe there needs to be an R there, paperwork production law or any other aspects. Any other aspects of this information may be sent to General Services, Regulatory Secretariat, 1800 F Street, Northwest, Washington, District of Columbia, 20405. And again, we're speaking to the right court when we write everything out, okay? And I believe if we could, let's talk about this just briefly with regard to the addresses, because we went over the last time that addresses are a description of the court, but we want to add one other thing to that. Let's look up the word abbreviation here in Black's Law so that we will know why we don't use abbreviation. Yes. And I could have easily just searched it. Okay. Abbreviations, here it is. And this is going to explain why we don't use them. It says shortened conventional expressions employed as substitutes for names, phrases, dates, and the like, for the saving of space, of time in transcribing, etc. If anyone has ever heard of the space-time continuum, for the science fiction lovers, I am one as well. When you talk about space and time, you're talking about whole civilizations either being put in or taken out of processing. And so the saving of space and time, in the Biblios, it also talked about that, that the beast would seek to change laws and times. So all the beast did last era was abbreviate things like states and other words in order to write themselves in. And all we're doing is writing them out by spelling everything out. Because then their fake fraudulent states don't exist. It's very Star Trek-ish for the Trekkies, those who like Star Trek. When they step up onto the transporting machine, they just disappear. You see them about to be transported from from the ship to a planet, and you would see all of this confusion in terms of these little snow beads, and then they would just disappear and then appear on someplace else. All they did was change time and space in order for that to happen, and say that, okay, they're not here, they're there. So so with that being stated, Islam, we will open the meeting for those who, let's take just a moment to do that, for those who may want to come in. Just a moment. Let's do that. Just a moment. Let me open the meeting. Okay. So we are open. The meeting is open in Okay. 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 Just
Hey, Malaya, I tell you to suck my dick, but I know you got Pauline's in your mouth already. Malaya.
Watch your mouth.
What's up? What, you don't like your bitches being talked about? Your bitches in your house?
Yo, watch your mouth, man.
What's wrong? Pauline's a fucking cunt. What's the problem with that?
Dude, watch your mouth, man.
Okay.
Malaya got Pauline's dick in her mouth.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, you dumb bitch. Go ahead and say something, you stupid cunt. We hear you. Go ahead, dumb bitch. Go ahead, bitch. Tell us all about your conveyance, your free conveyance. Tell us all about your free conveyance, Pauline. Come on, girl. Come on, girl.
A moment.
We're waiting, Pauline.
Claim that you have, and you can't even fuck Range Rover.
What? Hey, Angel Bay, when are you going to get your free conveyance? You said way back a couple months ago,
can you all
you had to do was get your delirium. Yeah, we hear you.
Islam.
Yes,
Just a moment. Okay, good.
God, you don't understand English.
Just one moment.
Hello, and thank you for joining me.
Just a moment. Just a moment. Okay.
So, Pauline, is this what Prophet Noble Drew is supposed to be teaching everybody? You're not teaching what Prophet Noble Drew taught. You're making shit up as you go.
Hold on. We'll get that taken care of momentarily.
This is the shit that Faye pushed and Taj Turk Faye pushes, not your Prophet Noble Drew. Noble Drew be
somebody's having some problems.
Fucking heard what you guys
and it's not
doing.
us.
Disgrace to the Morris Science
Somebody is having some problems, and it is not us. Yeah, you're out. Okay. So, you know what, y'all? If we were not kicking that rear end off out of here, none of that stuff would be going on. I'm telling you, it wouldn't. None of that would be going on. So, now, let's go back to what we were talking about here. So, can you all hear me? I just want to be sure. Yes. Okay. Thank you. It is a display of fear on their part. It is a display of fear. And listen, they don't have a reason to be scared, but we're going to do our job. We're going to do what we came to do. So, with that being stated.
And yet you haven't gotten one thing that you've commanded. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, you're doing your job. Oh, but where's that shit that you've commanded?
As I was stating, yes, indeed, we can see through all of that mess. Okay, so now let's go forward with the bid bond. Over here, it says certificate of title, all living state birth certificates. My birth certificate that I created is at Michigan State, not state of Michigan, and the word state is in all lowercase letters. So it's at Michigan, the land, Michigan.
Yo, ghetto Detroit Negro.
And with that being stated, also, the principal is United States for America Estate, and that's at 1111 Constitution Avenue Northwest, Washington, District 4, Columbia, 20224. The surety is gold. It's not names anymore, not like that. It's this name.
I tell Leia to talk, but she's got Pauline's dick.
The name of the resource is gold. That's the surety, which it should have been the surety all along. And that's located at Depository Trust Corporation. We put this 666 trillion gold dollars and 666 trillion in bank credits here. You'll see why a little further down. So we did date this bid date for June the 3rd, 2023, which is the date of the full moon that we just celebrated yesterday. And we're still celebrating. And we will be celebrating. Islam Empress.
Just a quick question. If you go back up on the where you state the 666 trillion bank credit,
yes.
There. Oh, sorry about the noise. I see two dollar signs, and I'm just curious, was that a mistake or?
It is a mistake. Thank you for that, Empress.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you. That's why we do this, so you all can point things out and all of that.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Empress. Your eye is very keen, as always, Islam.
As always, Islam.
So now, trust entitlement. That's what we have here. On the old form, I think it said obligations there. But for us, it says trust entitlement. And this is going to be restated to say the same thing that this one says down here. Okay, so why don't we? This is going to say the same thing as this action bond. So why don't we go to the action bond, because they're exactly alike. This date should be June 3rd as well, and then nunc pro tunc. But this is the part that I wanted, because this is going to go on on all three of them. It's going to go on the payment bond, the action bond, and the bid bond. This information right here. So let's go over this information. Just a moment. Let's see. Just a moment. So okay. Trust entitlements according to the Circle 7 Holy Quran for the Moorish Holy Temple for Science, Chapter 25. We, the principals, and our sureties, which is our gold, eternally inherit all the United States for America. That's everything, all property, everything that says United States.
When polling shit don't work, you just add another step. Just add another step where the shit don't work.
Whether it be the United States or United States for America or any of our derivatives that we've created, however we create them. It says, we, the principals and our sureties, eternally inherit all the United States for America, hereinafter stated as the government. We inherit our government. We're the people, and we've inherited that authority, governmental authority. Okay, it's in our blood. To include the above stated gold sum, for inheriting the stated sum, we hereby free ourselves, our heirs, executors, administrators, beneficiaries, successors, agents, assigns, and any derivatives thereof, both jointly and severally, as well as severally. So that means that Morse can go, yes, indeed, I can do that. Let me see.
We still haven't heard Squash's story, and I have a gallon of lube.
Say zoom in a little bit further, so I want to make sure we do that. But I don't want it to be too big. Okay. So it says we the principals and our sureties eternally inherit all the United States for America, hereinafter stated as the government, to include the above stated gold sum. For inheriting the stated sum, we hereby free ourselves, our heirs, executors, administrators, beneficiaries, successors, agents, assigns, and any derivatives thereof, both jointly and severally, as well as severally. Where the sureties are corporations, we, the principals, free ourselves to fully possess, have full custody, full settlement, full right, full proof by public instrument, full jurisdiction by the government, and full use and enjoyment, nunc pro tunc, at will, all jointly and severally. Wait a minute. Let me make sure. Let me go back. At will, yes, all stated corporations jointly and severally, as well as severally. The trust entitlements are for all actions in favor for any and for all of us. For all purposes at will, each titled heir does hereby bond herself and himself jointly and severally with the principal for full inheritance of the sum shown next to the surety's name above. So we're binding ourselves together to inherit the 666 trillion in gold and bank credits And all property that's in escrow as well. So it's for everything. Each titled heir shall possess their full and whole entitlements at the time that stated heir proclaims their Moorish American or Moor American or Al-Moroccan American or Al-Moroccan nationality on the public record by Moorish government affidavit created by the stated heir or autographed by the stated heir. Are there any questions or comments about that particular part right there? Just one moment. We'll open the meeting up right now, actually. Islam.
That's great.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments regarding this part? Thank you, Nobility, Justice Morpheus. See, the way our ancestors set it up, and this is just a brief explanation, the way they set the estate up is that we had to come together. We couldn't, if one of you is far more competent than others, that one cannot just claim the estate. We have to all do it together. And it should be that way if you ask me, But when we say jointly and severally, they still have to be, anyone else still has to be connected to the principle, but they can go and do as their spirit leads them to do. So that's how it was in the last era, and to our not to our favor, because that was a debtor situation last era. This is a creditor situation. So everything that has to do with credit, trust, entitlements, anything like that, it includes all of us. Okay. And again, excuse me for I'm looking over this way, making sure that I can access both of these computers. Okay. So with that being stated, and if there are no questions or comments regarding that, Chapter 25 of the Circle 7, Holy Quran for the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. We've stated this before about the bonds and why we're doing bonds, and Justice Noble Phoenix, this will further explain the bond situation and why we're doing them. I just love this. Can I tell you, I love this work. I love what we do. I love that we're all together because it all makes sense. It all makes sense. A holy covenant for the Asiatic nations. That's what that should say. Yeah. Okay. It says, and this is the restated version, and you'll see why as we read through. It says, ye are the heirs of one father, because we're not children anymore, previously provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother had given you suck. So all of that is in the past, for which we're grateful. It says, let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers and sisters, that peace and happiness may dwell within thy mother's empire. And when ye unify in the earth, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. Thy brother shall no more be in adversity. I try not to cry when I read this. Therefore, assist him peacefully. Thy sister shall no more be in trouble. Therefore be with her as she reigns. So shall the fortunes of thy mother support her whole nation empire, and her authority be continued within you all in your love to and for each other. And that is the matriarchal version or for the Circle 7. This is actually, Prophet Noble Ali stated that the half has not been told. And he stated that if he told the other half, many would go back to sleep. The other half belongs to the matriarch. So he told the half that he could tell. And now it's our turn, matriarch, to state our part. And that is why we restate all the documents and everything. It is her story, Empress Rama. Yes. We must speak. We rule and reign now. Let's not get that twisted. This is our era. So that is why we're restating everything. And when we restate the Circle 7, all we're doing is, again, during the last era, we honored the patriarchy. We did not rebut the patriarchy last era because it was appropriate. And when the Moors would read out of the Circle 7, the last era, and it talked about the man and men and things like that, underneath it all, the matriarch was there. But we couldn't say anything because it wasn't time to speak. I'll just give you a quick example. In chapter 1, it says, time never was when man was not. If life of man at any time began, a time would come when it would end. So man, the time of man is not even as long as the matriarch. The matriarch was first, and then came man. We're the ones who said, let us go down and make man in our image. And when we say man, we're talking about our sons. We're also talking about these instruments and tools that we use. And so that is actually a feather in the cap of our sons. God came down and said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And so with that being stated, just one moment. Go here for just a moment. We honor our sons because they came from us. And, they are eternal just like we're eternal. So just go here. And there is someone who's not in Rashasha that's here that's saying something in the chat, pretending to be in Rashasha. We know our Empress. We know what she would say and what she would not say. We know her energy. Islam. So now, this is where bonds are mentioned. And when the Prophet talked about let the bonds of affection, he couldn't come right out and say it's the bond process that's been messing with the heirs. The bottomry instruments. He couldn't come right out and say the bottomry instruments. So he pointed to them. And then, he that hath an ear, let him hear. He that hath an eye, let him see. Okay? And so, just one. Empress Shasha, are you here? If you could, *6.
Malambe Zola.
Okay, we just wanted to be sure that is you. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Empress. So, when our prophet said what he said, he knew that when we woke up, we would look at the bond process and restate it properly. Because he's talking about unifying. Okay, he's talking about unifying, and he's saying, do commerce with each other. Prefer not a stranger to thy brother before thy own blood. Bonds bind. And then in verse 4, he talked about the adversity because those bonds from the last era was part of the adversity and the trouble. So when the Biblios talks about Jacob's trouble or Jacob, quote unquote, Jacob's trouble, that's it. It's the bond process. It's the bonds. It was the bottomry instruments that was causing the trouble and the adversity. And this is a code book. The Circle 7 is a code book. So with that being stated, just like the Biblios is a code book, the principal has published the bid stated above, and that's what we're doing right now. We're not done with the process. We still have a few more pages to go. Here, further, it says, whereas and therefore, the above stated action is eternally valid, standing, and is the law upon acceptance by the government for the bid stated above. So as you use the document, that is your acceptance. But we can state on the public record that we accept it even now, and it is valid. This bid is accepted now for then, nunc pro tunc, and activate executorially all other affidavits, writs, and commands as peacefully intended and stated by the entitled heirs. This government delivers the bonds mandated in alignment with the bid, and I think that word should probably be this government publishes, activates, and publishes. Oops, and I didn't want that to be in all caps. Activates and publishes the bonds mandated in alignment, and we mandated our own bonds. We didn't have anyone else mandating anything to us. Just one moment. Let me straighten this out. Mandated in alignment with the bid, actions, and payment law. Each principal exercising this instrument agrees that her or his entitlement is now for them, meaning acceptance is invoked at the will of the stated heir at any time, at all times, and at all points in time. And then witness. This quo warranto, mandamus, mittimus restitutio, writ affidavit witnesses that the principals and sureties did execute this law on the date stated above. Okay. Are there any questions or comments regarding what we've shown so far? And again, this same language is going to be on on all three. It's going to be on the bid bond, the payment bond, and the action bond. Any questions, comments, wisdom? Islam. Okay, so now let's show also down here at principal. Principal it's asking for signatures of the principals. And so we put all affidavits and documents placed on the public record by the United States for America, which is all the states united. Names and titles: United States for America, authority and presenter. Individual sureties and corporate sureties. The individual sureties, the surety is gold. The signatures is the biblios. And this week, the subjects signed the biblios. They signed a copy in their quote-unquote enactment of Congress. They signed the biblios. In anticipation of what we're doing, because it is a trust document that requires signatures for them. We don't have to sign it because we wrote it. It is our command. Haggai 2:8. The silver is mine and the gold is mine, saith the Lord. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's what it says. And you can look these up. All of these scriptures talk about the silver and the gold and what happens with it, and that the Lord governs the silver and gold, which is all of us. And then the gold is surety for a lifetime. Corporate surety, signatures, again, is in the biblios. The corporate sureties is, now I thought about putting the subjects as sureties, but why, when we can just use natural resources? So let's just put gold here as well. That's the name of the surety, gold. And at any time, we can add silver and all other natural resources. I think that it's important that we start with gold first so that order is established, order on its use and all of that. Gold does include anything coming from the air, because everything that we do has a gold clause in it. Everything that we do has a gold clause in it. We put them in it, so we know that for sure. So again, the gold is the surety. It's both the corporate surety, where paper is concerned. Okay, so the physical gold is the individual surety. The corporate surety is gold on paper that we write, such as our affidavits, our writs, our liens, and all of that. So when we make special appearances by documentation, that's the surety. So because in the past, that's what we were doing, is making special appearances by documentation. We're going to continue doing that, except we're the court. So special appearances is just for any other thing that's out there that we don't want to, don't desire to go to, or that we command from where we are. So again, this will be on all three: bid bond, payment bond, performance bond, action bond rather. And that is, let's see. This is the way that it looks, Justice Morpheus. This will be, and it's not finished, so I won't put it under the video yet, because we still have to. I have to restate the payment bond as well, and there'll be a couple of other things in this payment part. But it's basically saying it's going to say the same thing, and we'll go over it. We'll go through it. I wish that it was bigger. The writing was bigger. What I will do, though, so you can see it, I'll just zoom in and just do it this way. And this way you can get the language that's written in it. And this way you can see the whole document. Okay, and so what did we do? We quoted both the Circle 7 and the Biblios because they're both ancient documents in reality, ancient writings, and that is, again, another trust. Justice Morpheus, I'm not sure what you mean when you say we can reconstruct by using Excel. I don't really, you can. However you choose to do it, Nobility.
So you want the cult to believe in something you can't get your husband to believe in? Oh, come on. You know, that's some fucking bullshit. You can't even get your own husband to believe in your cultish ideas, in these cultish, thoughts, and you want these people on this line to believe in you? Oh, come on. And you can't, oh, by the way, you can't get a conveyance. You can't get cell phone service or a cell phone or nothing like that. So what makes you think, or any of you think for that matter, what makes you think that anybody's...
We have done it. We won. We won. I'm convinced. I know it now. I know that. I know it for sure. I know it for sure. It's a wrap. And I have a strange feeling, Morris, that this process that we're doing right now is key. I know it because of the resistance that I've had with regard to publication and completion of it. But I've been doing some study as well. Of course, our study, we go down all the rabbit holes when we study generally. So with that being stated, that is our next Congressional Assembly. It is our intention to go into the last part of this presentment, which is these affidavits of individual surety, and then I believe it's an insurance, reinsurance agreement for a bond statute payment bond. So again, we'll go through that during the next meeting, during our next that is our intention for our next Congressional Assembly. A couple of Islam Nobility.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, while I was mentioning about the Excel, I remember some of the videos didn't pass, and some of those format that you did, I took it from the PDF, I didn't look at it, to Excel, and I recreated it. It looks just the same. I'm just saying that if those know how to do that, then, it takes some time, but it could be done. It's on.
Yeah, thank you, Nobility. And it's worth the time we take to do it. Yeah, it's worth the time we take to do it as well. Yeah.
Yes, and you are ashamed
so
of this
now,
whole...
let's go over just a couple of definitions here, Nobility.
You are.
One of them being more. This is from Black's Law Dictionary.
You are
So now, more. Now, this is how you know more is not the color black. This is from Black's Law Dictionary. More. An officer in the Isle of Man. Yes. An officer in the Isle of Man who summons the courts. That means we call forth the courts by, and when you talk about summoning, That is a spiritual term that means invite. It's also a natural term that means invite. We had to use words to do that, and we did. For the several sheetings, okay? The office is similar to the English bailiff of 100. And the English bailiff of 100, you can look that up in a Black's Law Dictionary as well. Quite interesting. Mortgage, a sum due by law. Again, that's what we're keeping track of. Mors sovereign dolarium is a measuring stick that says, how much is this worth? It's worth whatever, however many Mors sovereign dolarium gold receipts. And it says, a sum due by law or usage, customs and usage, for mooring or fastening of ships to trees and posts at the shore or to a wharf. So we secure all shipping, shipment, mooring in maritime law, anchoring or making fast to the shore or dock, the securing or confining a vessel in a particular station, as by cables, anchors, or by a line or chain run to the wharf. Lines and chains. Mooring is also what some called in the last era DNA chain. Think about mooring that way. That's the line or lineage that links us together. A vessel is moored in safety within the meaning of a policy of marine insurance when she is thus moored to a wharf or dock, free from any immediate danger from any of the perils insured against. Need we say more? So it is the lineage or line of Moors and Moorish nationality that moors her, the ship, the mothership, to the wharf or the dock. Moorish nationality is not just, there was no guessing about that. There's no guessing about it. And what we've heard some say that they are, and I've heard this term many times before, that they're just saying that they're a living soul. Did you know that if you say that you're a living soul, but you're not moored to nationality, someone can come and claim that, and that's really, there was an enactment of that last era. Someone saying, oh, there's a living soul, let me claim that, and I'll put it in this dead body. So nationality and our spiritual, who we really are in the spirit realm, go together. Speaking of money, wampum, beads made of shells used as money by the North American Indians and which continued current in New York as late as 1693. We talked about full proof and full jurisdiction. Let's talk about identity. Identity, and again, some of these definitions need some finessing, but that's what the Phoenicians do. Identity in the law of evidence, sameness. The fact that a subject, person, or thing before a court is the same as it is represented, claimed, or charged to be. That is why we don't go to fake foreign courts. Because there is a representment there that is not us. It's not the same. That's not the proper identity. Their Pauline Ritchie is not the real one. It's fake. It's dead. Mine is the real one because I created her. Now, this is something that I wanted to show you really quickly, more that was going on that we didn't know about it, but it's real. Idem sonans, sounding the same or alike, having the same sound. Pauline Ritchie, the living, sounds the same as Pauline Ritchie, that dead corpse that they were trying to say. I hope she claims this one, or else we're going to have to let her go. Okay? They sound the same. It says a term applied to names, and this is the difference, which are substantially the same, though slightly varied in the spelling, as Lawrence and Launit. So substantially, my Pauline Ritchie is the same as who I say she is. Substantially, my Pauline Ritchie is not the same, made of the same substance as a dead Pauline Ritchie. It says here, two names are said to be idem sonantes if the attentive ear finds difficulty in distinguishing them when pronounced, or if common and long continued usage has by corruption or abbreviation made them identical in pronunciation. Abbreviation and corruption mean the same thing. An abbreviation is a corruption of the real. That's why they say corruption or abbreviation. Except the corruption is an out and out difference, whereas an abbreviation is a shortening, which is still not correct. And so now they're talking about he that hath an ear. They sound the same, Lawrence and Launit. They're pointing now back to the Moors who used to speak differently than what the animal husbandry schools taught. It says, the rule of idem sonans is that absolute accuracy in spelling names is not required in a legal document or proceedings, either civil or criminal. That if the name as spelled in the document, though different from the correct spelling thereof, conveys to the ear when pronounced according to the commonly accepted methods a sound practically identical with the correct name as commonly pronounced, the name thus given is a sufficient identification of the individual referred to, and no advantage can be taken of a clerical error. This is where jurisdiction comes into play. They they drew or wrote the names the same. Their Pauline Ritchie looks the same, but substantially it's not because of the jurisdiction. And so if I thought that their Pauline Ritchie was me, then I would be under their jurisdiction, and it didn't matter how they spelled it, they were still going to say, she accepted it, so that's her. And that's why they don't really concern themselves too much when people come in and say that they're bays and L's when you're in the wrong jurisdiction or enacting the wrong jurisdiction. They don't care what you call yourself. They're just going to invoke idem sonantes and say, okay, that sounds correct. Let's put that on the paper and capitalize it so we can decapitate them and then put our head there and speak for them. But in the proper jurisdiction, it doesn't matter how we spell it, like we said on our fiduciary document. It does not matter how we spell it, doesn't matter how we pronounce it, doesn't matter what order the letters are in or the numbers or anything. It's still who we say it is, according to our intention. And down here at the bottom, it says, but modern decisions to conform to the growing rule that a variance to be material must be such as has misled the opposite party to his prejudice. Okay? But the doctrine of idem sonans has been much enlarged by modern decisions to conform to the growing rule that a variance to be material, in order for that variance or that change to have substance, must be such as has misled the opposite party to his prejudice. So you can claim the proper jurisdiction. Jurisdiction can be invoked at any time. That's why our ancestors said that and put that on the record. Okay? So here, and now speaking of money, this is important as well, where money is concerned. IOU. It's a memorandum of debt consisting of these letters, IOU, a sum of money, and the debtor's signature is termed an IOU. So a debtor's signature is termed an IOU. Now, Noble Phoenix asked a question about bids and about in the last era, they were IOUs. We're creditors, so the credit is owed, and all we're doing is claiming it by this process. And it's not an IOU, it is this is ours, we possess it now. Okay? So, yes, Empress Malaya, that's how they created the straw man, indeed. Now, that's where idem sonans sonances comes in, or idem sonans, is things sounding alike. In the Biblios, it says, my sheep know my voice, and another they will not follow. Our sheep is our property. That is either the subjects or the all caps, or the in capitis diminution minima, which is the first letter capitalized and the rest of the letters are all lowercase. Yeah, indeed, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. It is done. Oh, it's done. It's so done. Because they know once we put this particular document on the public record, it's going to elevate things yet another major level. They know it. We know it too. We know it too. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? There are a couple of other, let's make this clear as well. When you're talking about codes and statutes, Morris, here, let me pull that down just a little bit. Did you know that a statute or a code is also a bond? That's why we had to restate everything. That's why. This is from Black's Law Dictionary under statute. Statute also sometimes means a kind of bond or obligation of record, being an abbreviation for statute merchant or statute staple. A merchant is out doing things on the land or the water, and the staple that's connected to the land. That's stable and staple are the same word. So codes and statutes are bonds. Okay. Yeah. Indeed, Justice Harold. And that's why we restate everything. We don't leave anything unrestated. In fact, we hereby state on the public record that everything is restated according to our intention and our state. And then we'll just continue restating things as we go, because all law is specific. So this is why we state our own laws, so as not to be bound to the dead. Tacit acceptance. In the civil law, a tacit acceptance of an inheritance takes place when some act is done by the heir which necessarily supposes his intention to accept, and which he would have no right to do but in his capacity as heir. That's what when we, in that last era, we would not have had a right to do, quote unquote, enacting in that last era. We would have not had the right to do what we're doing, printing our own money, being our own state, doing all of these things, claiming our inheritance, governing ourselves. In that last era of performance, yes, staple and stable are the same thing. When you staple papers together, it stabilizes them and keeps them together. Indeed. They indicate putting things together and holding them fast. Ipso jure. Ipso jure. We talk about more subjects ipso jure. Ipso jure, by the law herself, because our law is not an it, our law is a her. By the mere operation of the law. So just by the matter of us sitting here or standing here, just by matter of us appearing on our own land, the law has appeared ipso jure. And whatever we state and say and demonstrate is the law ipso jure. Now, this is for those who say and do things with regard to prisons and wards and wardens. A warden is a guardian, a keeper. This is the name given to various officers. And then it says here, warden of the Cinque Court. In English law, the title of the governor or presiding officer of the Cinque Court. Cinque is actually spelled S-I-N-K. But they changed the spelling to Old English so you wouldn't get it. That when you're sinking, that's when a warden comes in. Now, check this out. Wards and liveries. In English law, a ward is the title of a court of record established in the reign of Henry VIII. See Court of Wards and Liveries. Since a ward, as in a prison ward, is a court, and we proved that, a prison ward is a court. In other words, courts are everywhere. No matter where you go, it's court. It says since a ward is a court and a warden is only a guardian, then who is the justice or the judge? The people. The answer is the people. Yes. And cinco is 5 in Spanish. Indeed. So that's why they call it wards and liveries court. Court of wards and liveries, because liveries is actually the living. But the living has to speak. When we're doing POW demonstrations, we have to just speak. Speak. Just speak. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. No matter how often you have to do that, do it. So that you'll be out. And don't waver from that. Now, listen, This is important. Warrant. And this is where idem sonans comes in at, or names that sound similar. It says here, a writ or precept from a competent authority. That means that incompetents don't have any business issuing any warrant. In pursuance of law, directing the doing of an act and addressing to an officer or person competent to do the act and affording him protection from damage if he does it. Did you know that warrants are not even really about whoever it is they're going to get? It's about who's actually doing the going, who's executing the warrant, who's actually going to pick the person up. It's protection for them. But see, they don't have any protection when it's the Moors. That's why it's important for us to continue to be ourselves. When they issue warrants, we issue peace statements to rebut the war rant, because they're ranting and raving about war. War means confusion. Therefore, it goes back to idem sonans and words that sound alike or names that sound alike. That's confusion. That's why we have to state everything. And then it says here, particularly a writ or precept issued by a magistrate, justice, or other competent authority addressed to a sheriff, constable, or other officer, requiring him to arrest the body of a person therein named. We're not persons. We don't have names. We govern persons and names. And bring him before the magistrate or court to answer or to be examined, touching some offense which he is charged with having committed. Look at the word answer and think about the Constitution says that you don't answer for a capital. That's the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment's takings clause. Now, this word examined, let's look at that word etymologically. And let me just show you etymologically that word, because it's a very powerful word. Here, let me make it bigger. This is so important etymologically. Am. Who is the great I am? Who is that? That's all of us. That is why the Constitution says that we are not to be questioned anywhere except in Congress. Article 1, Section 6. Article 1, Section 6 says that the senators and representatives are not to be questioned anywhere but in Congress. And even here, we don't answer questions by frauds jumping in, asking and all that. We don't answer to them because they're using idem sonans technique. They're saying names, Pauline, Pauline, Pauline. It sounds like my person, my natural person, but it's not my natural person. And since I'm the fiduciary for my natural person, I have no obligation to answer anything they say. Doesn't matter what they say. That's why we just out. This that we're putting here today, all of that confusion at the beginning of this call of this Congressional Assembly with the frauds, all of that, they didn't want you to see this. When someone is claiming to examine you, that means they are attempting to claim your I am. Exam. Not I am, exam. Am is the root word, and there's a prefix and a suffix. They have no right to examine you. That means they're looking all in your business, but you're the Lord, the sovereign, and the God. And that goes for where medical, and again, always demonstrate at the level of your understanding when we state things like this, because if you feel you should go to one of them and have them to examine you, then by all means do that, because you're sovereign. We can't tell sovereigns what to do, and we don't tell sovereigns what to do. We make suggestions, and some of them we make strong suggestions. But to be examined, that is something that we only allow each other to do. Okay. And so, with that being stated, warrant, an order by which the drawer authorizes one person to pay a particular sum of money, and the body doesn't have any say in that if the body is not properly claimed and proclaimed. Okay? An order by which the drawer authorizes one person to pay a particular sum of money. We have bankrupted, and they were bankrupt from the beginning. But when we state who we are, and then and we don't capitulate, and they say, "Look, get her out of here," then they don't get to cash in on any war rent. They don't get to cash in. They don't get any credits for that. That's why we do it and say it and state it and state who we are on the public record, so that they'll know, don't even try it. Don't try it. And yes, we have to be tested in that area to make sure we're going to stand. And we're going to stand. Our ancestors know we are. They're just taking us through it. We're just walking it out. We stand, period. And then we issue a war rent, and some delirium is passed back and forth. Except ours are to keep the peace, because we're not at war. So ours are actually peace. What do we call them? Peace statements. Peace bills. We can issue bills for attainder. An authority issued to a collector of taxes, empowering him to collect the taxes. See, it's not about the body. They want fiat, and that's why we're not even a part of that. To collect the taxes extended on the assessment roll, and to make distress and sale of goods or land in default of payment. That means they're tearing up stuff and distressing the land. That's from a debtor's perspective. A command of a council, and our Grand Sheik talked about council, that word council not being the right word. He said this past Friday on House of Reawakening Minds that the word council, COUNCIL, is not the right word. It is consul, CONSUL, and we affirm and agree with our Grand Sheik posture with that. It's consular court, a command of a consul board or official whose duty it is to pass upon the validity and determine the amount of a claim against the municipality to the treasurer to pay money out of any funds in the municipal treasury. And I'll stop right there because it's all about the money. It says a warrant differs from a bond in that a bond is a negotiable instrument, whereas a warrant is non-negotiable and is subject at all times to the defenses it would be were it in the hands of the original payee, which is not the case with the negotiable bond. The original payee, where warrants are concerned, that's why it's important for us to rebut and do the bid, bond, payment, bond and an action bond process. Because a war grant, again, is similar to a bond, and it acts just like a bond, except war grants are when they say non-negotiable, what they're saying is someone said or did something that gives them some, I wouldn't say clue, but there was some idem sonatus going on, where some things sounded a certain way. Okay? And it sounded a certain way, but it was not of the right substance. Okay? So, and then here, I just wanted to run through a couple of these. Government de jure, a government of right, the true and lawful government. A government established according to the Constitution of the state. That's why we had to restate the constitutions and put them on a public record. We had to do that because a fake constitution written in black ink by somebody else is not our Constitution. And lawfully entitled to recognition and supremacy, and the administration of the state. We are the state, and we are the ministers for our state, but which is actually cut off from power or control, and that was before. We're not cut off from power or control. And they don't say who cuts it off, because only we could cut our own power off. Nobody else has the authority to do that. No one has the authority to do that. A government deemed lawful or deemed rightful or just, which nevertheless has been supplanted or displaced. That is to say, which receives not presently, although it received formerly, habitual obedience from the bulk of the community. Since we have come together, okay, I can't say when we come together, since we have come together, we are the government in fact, and we are at law government. Okay, so then we can go into de facto. We could go into these other words and things. De facto. Let me see, there's a little bit of noise coming from somewhere. Just a moment. Let's see where that's coming from.
Like that, don't you? I got it.
Just a moment. Let's make sure we can hear.
Well, something for her to walk around in when she go, when they do the swimming thing.
I believe that's just the cherie.
I ain't get one.
Okay. Yeah. Just a moment. Okay, got it. Now, de facto, a government of fact, a government actually exercising power and control in the state as opposed to the true and lawful government. This is not the case anymore. We are the government, both fact and de jure. We are the factual government for ourselves. There is no other. There is no other government but the Moors. A government not established according to the Constitution of the state and not lawfully entitled to recognition or supremacy. So we are the de jure. We can take the words, the DE, we can take that off of both of those terms, and we can say we are the lawful, factual government, period. Okay? Now, this says the de facto, what did I underline there? I underlined that the de facto, it says here, let's read that quickly. The distinguishing characteristics of such a government is that adherence to it in war against just a moment.
Okay. Won't do any extra time.
Okay. So the distinguishing characteristic of such a government is that adherence to it in war against the government de jure do not incur the penalties of treason, and under certain limitations, obligations assumed by it in behalf of the country or otherwise will in general be respected by the government de jure when restored. We've restated this. We are the only government. There is no other government. We're the government, period. There is no other. And when I say we, I mean the Moors. And all of those previously acting as government, all actors are no longer performing. And see, they know that when we finish this bid bond, payment bond, and action bond process, they already know. Done. They know that. Once this goes on the public record. And they're already done in reality. Okay? They're already done in reality because we're here. And in fact and at law, they're done. So that's why there's been push on completing this process. I would like to go ahead and finish the bid bond, payment bond process. So let me just ask, would any of you be in favor of us having a meeting tomorrow? Let me see, would tomorrow be good? Well, no, we'll just do it Thursday. Islam.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Mañana.
Anyone else as well?
Yes.
Islam. Yes.
Sure. What time?
What time?
This same time, 7. It would be 7 o'clock Eastern, which would be 1 hour up from.
Yes, that is perfect. Yeah.
Islam, I agree.
Okay. Well, we shall. That will give us the opportunity to finish the rest of the bid bond process, payment bond, and that process. Is there anyone not in favor of meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern? We don't have anyone dissenting. Okay, then we will meet tomorrow at 7, and by then we'll have the remainder of this process, where the insurance part, affidavit of surety, and all of this. We'll have all of this completed. Okay. So right now we've completed just about we're done with this part too, because it's going to say the same thing as what's up here, as what's on the payment bond, bid bond, and action bond will say the same thing. And then we'll go ahead and finish it tomorrow at 7. And then we'll just move forward from there. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom from this great and amazing and grand and mighty Congress? All-powerful, all-knowing Congress. Islam Empress.
North Alabama, Louisiana, Territories, Dominion. And I asked about
whether anybody was interested in getting astrological readings in the last Congressional assembly. And I got many emails from the chat as I could. Forgive the background noise. And I tried to ask, I tried to collect as many emails as I could from the chat. But if there was anybody that I did not contact yet that is interested in getting a reading, if you could just take my email from the chat, because I think it would just be easier to get my email from the chat than to try to go through the chat again and try to collect the email. But also there were those who were saying, yeah, I'm interested, but then they didn't put their email in the chat, so I didn't actually catch their information. So that's why I wanted to announce that. So I'm putting in the chat now.
Islam.
Yeah.
Islam. Any other questions, comments, or wisdom?
Islam.
Islam nobility.
Yes, this is Pharaoh Eel in the Virgin Land Territory. I have a question.
Yes.
My question is, when we're doing, trying to do commerce out of the country, what is the procedure of sending letters and also sending packages?
So the process is going to be the same, except you'll use the pink international return receipt process. It's the same as our government mailing process, except you'll use the pink label, the pink international label.
Islam.
Do you know, have you seen the video? It's about an 8-minute video showing the mailing process. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, you would just replace the green one with the pink one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Islam.
Islam. Anyone else? Empress Shasha, I think. Or another Empress. I heard someone say Islam. Okay. If
Can
there
you
be
hear
no, yes.
Oh,
yes.
sorry. It's just Empress Shasha, and I just wanted to say how, you know, I'm so wonderful to be here and to thank you, Matona Mamingi, for all of your support and
yes,
you know, and just yes, I'm still coming. I'm standing, and I stood, and Medea and everything. It's done. I'm here, and I just wanted to let you know I love you all. You know, Malemba Yezola, and I know I felt the energy and the support.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that you knew that, all of you.
And you know we love you too. You know that. You know that. You know it.
Yeah. So Medea.
Indeed. Matando Maminge Zola.
Oh, Matando Maminge Malemba Yezola. Yes.
Indeed.
So I just wanted you to. I'm going to share this. I will share, but
when you're ready, Empress, because I'll say that you know you need time to decompress from that.
Yes.
It is an issue. You know, we have to decompress from that. We need time to just breathe from the testing. You know.
Yes, and I absolutely. You know, it's the timing, the Congressional assemblies, the content, the tip. Hello.
Now you know. They're trying to tell. They're calling you Mama.
It's for my medical. Yeah, she didn't have it. Yeah, I mean that. I couldn't have. I mean, really. Hello. It just put it all in context.
Yes.
So
they know titles come from there.
Hey. So, yes, go ahead. Yes. I'm high. I'm grounded and I'm high, and yeah. So,
yeah.
I yield.
We're so glad. You know, we are so glad.
Yeah.
My soul is just doing cartwheels and flips and flying around with joy because all we have to do is keep speaking. The empresses specifically. Yes, our sons need to speak. The empresses, this is our era, so we must stand and be ourselves. And then again, when you see that window in your testing, there will always be a window that you can go out of and get out of the testing. Take the window, take it.
Absolutely.
And always stand and be yourself throughout throughout it all. Be yourself.
And that is it. That is all one can be, and that is who I am, and they know me. Hello. I call the station and command them, and they comply.
Yeah.
On the other side, I'm out, and but yeah. So I just know that the energy, the ancestors, all of you, everything, was supporting with me, and I know this. And
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And we are that way with each and every one of us here who hear this. Everyone, we're here. We're here for each other, to support each other. Islam, Empress.
Islam. This is Karima Bay at Virginia. That window that you speak of. Can you hear me okay? Can the Moors hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Empress.
Okay. That window that you just mentioned, when we did the POW demonstration last February, that's all we could, that was one of the things that we thought about, because we watched the, I hope I say her appellation correctly, Valahara Bay.
Yes.
Yes,
Queen
we
Valahara.
Queen Valahara Bay, Islam. And we watched her video so many times, like when we first woke up. And so when we had our testing, that's what we were looking for too, is that window of opportunity, Islam.
Yeah. And the window presents itself, thank you, Empress Karima, the mighty and powerful Empress Karima. Let me
Islam.
put that out there.
Thank you.
Just powerful.
Same to you, Empress, and all the Empresses and Nobles. Islam.
Yes,
I yield the floor.
Indeed. I keep looking at this other computer over here. Maybe I should turn the camera on. But yes, because the systems are ours to use. Okay, and let's just keep moving forward. Always stand and state who you are and be yourself. And so on and so forth. And yes, this is the era for and of and by the matriarch. However, we want to ensure that our sons know that they are, yes, the patriarchs and kings at this earth. And the kings, we put the kings in place. We set the kings in place. So a king doesn't rule over the matriarch. A king is set in place by the matriarch. He gets his title from the matriarch. Okay? And so when we say king to our men, or we say emperor to our men, we give the titles. And that doesn't set anyone over us. It just says we honor the divinity in you. Period. And we will always call our men the kings and the emperors, the nobles. We raising the roof on our men always. Always. We will never not raise the roof for the men. So let's just make that clear. So with that being stated, if there be nothing further from this great and grand and mighty, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and omnific Congress, we will adjourn until tomorrow at 7 Eastern. Islam.
I do have a question.
Yes, you do? Okay, go ahead.
I just recently was Googling Delarium, and I came across yours. I came across Delarium with your face on it.
Really?
Yes.
That is, you know,
it had an orange background.
So let me say this about that. I did not design the Delarium.
With your face on it?
I didn't design that. Empress Kenya designed the Delarium.
Who?
Empress Kenya Houston L.
Okay.
She designed the Delarium, and she put that on there, and I'm in affirmation of it. My main concern was the other people that are on the Delarium. We wanted to be sure that everyone was okay with being on Delarium. Some we were able to reach, and some we were not.
I saw Marcus Garvey, Delarium. I saw Muhammad Ali Delarium. I was like, this is wild. And then I saw your Delarium. I was like, I want my own Delarium. And so I've never made it, and I did try to do my due diligence, or I made it a point to do my due diligence and research. However, I did not come up with any sources to find out how to actually draft my own Delarium. I very much like to do that.
Well, right now we're all using the same Delarium right now. We're all using the same Delarium because that is the state and empire money right now. Now, there will come a
Delarium that I designed myself.
Huh?
I mean Delarium that has my image on it.
At this time, we're speaking with one voice with Delarium and using the Delarium that we have put on the public record because that's what went through the processes. Because we took it through the processes, and you can go back and look at the videos of the processes as far as securities and exchange process, where distribution is concerned and all of that. And again, it's sovereign securities and exchange, but those processes are there for a specific reason. So go back and look at that. And then as a state and an empire, we voted on Delarium. We did some things where we, came together and decided that those were the nominations. We voted on who was going to be on Delarium. And so, but, in the future, we are going to be updating the Delarium. We're going to be introducing new bills, new gold receipts. We'll be taking votes from the people on who they want to be on their Delarium, because it's the way that we're doing things. Let me explain that too, Empress. The way that we're doing things is we're doing things all together now, instead of doing things just one here and one there. Right now, we're doing things jointly, and so that our several demonstrations look the same. So right now, we're just establishing order in the nation and the state and the empire. We're establishing order. We want to keep that order going because it's by our works and the things that we do together that adds there's strength in our numbers. Can we say that all the time? So what we're doing right now is, and I'm not saying you can't design your own currency or your own money. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that empire-wide and statewide, and when I say state, I mean the Empire State, where this Moorish National Republic federal government is concerned, we're using Delarium in its current format. And that is by the agreement of all of us. We've agreed over time with various votes. We've done, even when they were designed, we voted on that. we voted on those things. And again, I'm not saying you can't design your own currency. I'm just speaking in terms of us jointly as the Moorish National Republic federal government.
Ashe, are you?
Islam. And, the people that Empress Kenya is actually on, the designer of the Dolarium is on I think it's the $5 bill, the $5 bill, the $5 gold receipt. I'll have to look back. I think she's on one of and that was what she chose to be on. That was by her design. And then we presented it to the heirs, and we all voted. So, Islam, thank you for that.
You're welcome. You asked before in the last Congressional Assembly if people would like Dolarium. I didn't realize there was a $5 Dolarium bill gold receipt out there. My email is in the chat. Could you send me Dolarium?
Sure. Which one? Let me
thank you.
Yes. Anyone else needing Dolarium as well? Who wants Dolarium? If you could put your...
Okay, forgive me.
Okay, Islam. Let's see. And another reason, Empress, too, that we're speaking with one voice where Dolarium is concerned is because it is an introduction to the Moorish nations at Earth. And we want that introduction to be, we all want to be saying the same thing. The same thing that we did with Moorish government letterhead. We said, here, everyone use Moorish government letterhead. Let's all speak with one voice. And the response from the subjects was just major. So we found some, I see it there, Empress. Just one moment. Make sure. Because at some point, our ancestors were saying to us to speak jointly together, bond yourselves together, and speak with one voice. Everybody say the same thing for as long as you can say the same thing. And we know that because we're sovereign, it's built into us to do our own thing. It's built into us to do it. As sovereigns, it is also built into us because we are one blood and one nation, which, my thinking about that over this fast has been tremendous, which is why I could not hold back my tears when I was in the introduction. Today, we're one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. That will never change. We will always be one. And so we, right now, just in the beginning, in the introduction of the Moors coming forth, we're just going to speak with one voice. Indeed, Islam. Yes, we are one God. There's someone who wanted to share. Yes, indeed. Justice Darius says, one band, one sound. I like that. That's Islam. That's good. That is great, actually. If there be nothing else from this Grand Congress, we will adjourn until tomorrow at 7. And can someone send me a WhatsApp at 6 and just say, remember the meeting at 7? Because sometimes I get I can be sitting right here in front of my computer and I'm so involved in the study that, but I will definitely be here because it's important. And I'll be working on the document, so I can't forget. So with that being stated, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs, Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam.
Indeed.
Love and peace, Lord. Welcome back, Matriarchal Allah. Thank you.
Indeed. Welcome back, Shasha.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Matonda Mamingi Malaveyazola.
Islam, indeed.
Islam.
Islam. Much love.
No.
I love you.